Call the meeting to order and welcome everybody here this evening. I do apologize that we can't let everyone in just because of the space restrictions due to COVID. However, hopefully within a month we won't have to do this, but we'll let them come in and speak if they have something to say in the public hearings. Tonight's meeting is a joint meeting of the Town Board and the Planning Board for the purpose of 3 public hearings. The first of which is Comprehensive Land Use Plan and Comprehensive Transportation Plan. So I'll call on staff to do a staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. The first of the agenda items tonight, we're essentially going to break into 2 parts because they are 2 different documents. However, they are both intertwined and related. So we'll have a period, we'll start with the land use plan, accept public comment for the land use plan component of it, and then we'll go into the transportation plan and accept comment for that part. The first is the draft transportation plan. This is an 18-month process. Approximately 2 years ago, we sent out an RFP for a consulting team that would be able to do both the transportation plan as well as the land use plan. And as part of that, we were able to contract with Remy Kemp & Associates as well as Kendig Keys for the transportation plan and the land use plan. Land use planning is required according to North Carolina General Statute -501. Essentially, it says that if you regulate land use, you must have a current plan that will guide that land use and those regulations. It is the blueprint for future development. When you receive rezoning requests or special use requests, those requests need to correspond to what is in this document. Moving forward, once this is adopted, not only will we be referencing the 2030 vision or the Vision 2030 strategic plan, but we're also going to be referencing specific sections of our comprehensive land use plan as well as the future land use map. It is a guidance document. This does not replace our Unified Development Ordinance. The Unified Development Ordinance is the regulatory teeth that the town follows. The comprehensive land use plan is the guidance document that shapes and molds those changes moving forward. It is a vision for what the town could look like in 20, 30 years from now. Finally, it is the foundation for our regulations. This kind of builds upon or builds everything else up. There are methods to amend this if there's situations that change with different development patterns or whatnot. Additionally, when an applicant comes in for a conditional rezoning that is not consistent with the future land use plan, in accordance with 160D, there's a mechanism that allows for both the land use plan as well as the zoning to change at the same time. We've had quite a bit of public involvement despite COVID. We've had 4 board sessions before you. We had a town hall meeting that took place last January at Wakefield Central Baptist. I believe many of you were there in attendance. We also had online surveys. This was distributed through the town's website as well as all of our social media platforms. We also had visual preference surveys. Many of you saw on the town's planning page where it was which picture do you like better and why. This helped to shape and guide the direction of a lot of the intricacies in terms of the future land use patterns as well as some of the designs. Finally, we really capitalized on social media. With COVID, the ability to meet in person, unfortunately, was very limited. We did have opportunities to meet in person, such as our week-long meeting blitz, which I apologize because a lot of us sat out there in very hot weather in the alleyway, but there was a lot of very good information that was conveyed, not only from the Board of Commissioners, the Planning Board. We had representation from the schools, from surrounding municipalities, as well as a strong representation for the community as a whole. Finally, we did work with a primary focus group. This was made up of several individuals throughout the community, made sure that we had a very broad range of interests. David Lowry, who's on the planning board as an example, he started on that group. One of the reasons that we really appreciated his input is because he lives in one of the newer neighborhoods and has a different perspective than some of the folks that have lived in the more traditional neighborhoods, such as Nell Carroll. The plan is broken into several sections, starting with an introduction of why do we do this? What's the rationale behind it? Part 2 goes into the land use and development. This really goes into the characteristics and the details as it pertains to the future land use map. This section also contains the future land use map, which then correlates to our existing zoning classifications. We go into the details of growth capacity on what is the projection. This plan, as I've noted, looks out 20, 30 years into the road. Well, what's the town going to look like in 20, 30 years? A great way to determine that is based on these growth projections. And as indicated in the plan, it's a bit like looking into a crystal ball. You never really know until it happens. We look at housing in neighborhoods. We want to make sure that we have housing available for everybody. Right now, we have an overabundance of one price point, and we'd be looking to diversify those opportunities. There's a chapter on economic development with a strong emphasis on the area around Five County Stadium. It looks at what processes and procedures, ideas, as well as conceptual design regulations that could be done to really vitalize that area, as well as sections on how to help revitalize our downtown. Finally, we do look at recreation amenities. This chapter is very short because we're in the process of updating and creating, or should say creating, our very own parks and recreation plan. Essentially, this section says let's not step on that plan's toes. Finally, in terms of the content, there's the implementation section, which is the newest of the sections tonight. This, I'm going to go into a bit more detail of this, but it explains who does what and why. There's also an appendix of Zebulon today. With all good plans, we need to figure out where we're at now, where we came from, and then figure out the goals and objectives of where we want to go. Only then can we put forth a plan to achieve that. The plan does go through several guiding principles. These all came based on those discussions. It's worth noting that this comprehensive land use plan, this isn't something that's created by staff or our consultants. This is a combination of all the public input that we received from the Board of Commissioners, from the Planning Board, from the focus groups, as well as for those through the community. And one of the things that we heard over and over and over again is we need to have a connected community. We need to be grounded. And this is really focused on maintaining that small town character, keeping it feeling like that is downtown. We are growing at a very rapid pace, and there's a lot of communities kind of lose sight of who they are. They think that they're some up-and-coming community and they're going to change their characteristics. Staying grounded of maintaining that characteristic was determined to be important. We need to be balanced. We need to make sure that we're providing adequate land uses for nearby neighborhoods, having diverse housing choices, having kind of an equal balance of everything available so that we can attract those who want to come here as opposed to being exclusionary. We need to be prudent and really think about where we're at now and not overexert ourselves. Sure, we could build every road to a 6-lane wide freeway style, but what's going to happen to the characteristic of our community? Having that, making sure that we spend our resources, not only in terms of financial resources, but also staff allocation wisely. We need to be collaborative. We are in East Wake County. We have several small communities around us that work synergistically with us. What is good in one community oftentimes is good for all of the communities. The reverse is true. What is bad for one community, unfortunately, can have a negative impact on everybody. So working with our partners, be it Wake County, Wendell, Knightdale, Franklin County, Johnston County, Nash County, making sure that we have those necessary connections and work collaboratively with the surrounding municipalities, governmental agencies, as well as our development partners with North Carolina Department of Transportation. Finally, we need to be resilient. There's a lot going on, and especially with COVID and everything else, we need to figure out really how we can adequately balance those difficulties moving forward to have the best foot to move forward in a positive direction. Kind of the heart of any land use plan is our future land use map. You're going to see staff reference this more than any other component of the document. This is what developers are going to go to first when they're trying to decide whether or not to pursue development. One of the focuses with this, being that the UDO was so new, is it corresponds pretty closely to our zoning classifications that are found in our Unified Development Ordinance. However, it does provide guidance for some of the key target areas, such as the area around 5 County Stadium, which is shaded in light blue right there, for future mixed-use areas. This allows for us to work with the development community effectively to really help capitalize on the revitalization of 5 County Stadium. It also looks at recent changes, such as the interest for GSK to sell the southern tract of their parcel. You'll see on this, it's indicated as residential. The reason for that is we've had a lot of folks come forward looking to possibly be residential, and all of the surrounding land uses, with the exception of what's owned by GSK, is residential. So that future land use class makes sense. The implementation is the newest of the documents that you received, and it's broken into a couple segments. First is how to implement this plan. It provides guidance and instructions not only for staff, but also the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Board on what they need to do. And it also creates an action agenda, and I'll go through some of these details in a bit. It also explains the amendment process. As I mentioned previously, there are mechanisms to amend a future land use plan. More so, these plans should not be stagnant. They need to be reviewed, updated, and modified as time progresses, because the changes within a community need to be represented as part of this plan. It's a great document for where we see the future going right now, but in 5 years, that might change. Some states even go as far as to require these plans to be updated every 5 or 10 years. Finally, this needs ongoing outreach. One of the intents of this plan is not only to use this as a regulatory document, or a guidance document, but also as a marketing document. We're going to be able to utilize this when we meet with development partners. If somebody comes in and say they want to build a Target, first thing we're going to do is grab this document to say, this is what our future land use plan says. This is where we anticipate going in the future. Then we'll grab our Unified Development Ordinance, say, these are the regulations in place. Do you need to go through the rezoning request in particular locations, and then making sure that it corresponds with this document. The plan administration really breaks it into the 3 categories of who's going to be using this plan the most for the guidance component of it. It provides the outline for what the Board of Commissioners will see in it, specifically in terms of making the consistency statements. The Planning Board in terms of making the consistency statements, which will then come to the Board of Commissioners for the final ruling for rezoning requests, or the Board of Commissioners will use this directly in terms of special land use requests. Additionally, it provides quite a bit of guidance in terms of what the planning development staff will be using it for, what town management will be using it for, but it also goes beyond that. It also references the other departments, such as police, fire, parks and recreation, and public works. All of these entities have different components of this plan which they would be taking into consideration in terms of some of their processes and procedures. The action plan is broken into 3 stages. The first is a short term, and a lot of these are 1 year. A lot of these regulations, or a lot of these would include things such as formalize Welcome to the Town of Friendly People initiative, which for that particular purpose, we would have to work cooperatively with the Chamber of Commerce as an example. Complete relocation of the downtown fire station. We have a situation right now where we're outgrowing our fire station. It is, it's very tight in there, and it's amazing that our ladder truck is able to adequately fit in there. A lot of these items are listed as 1 year action plan items. Mid-year goes 2 to 4 years. These include things as complete a special area plan for 5-county stadium. This builds upon that economic development section in the document. Pursue age-friendly certification of Zebulon by the American Association of Retired Persons, or AARP. This goes back to we want to make sure that the town is all-inclusive, that we have opportunities, residential, recreational, pedestrian, opportunities for everybody, regardless of what stage of life they're in. Implement the results of the town's branding initiative. As many of you know, we're at the very beginning stages of exploring that. Once we have a brand, it's going to be implemented in multiple locations, including wayfinding signs, logos on town vehicles, as well as different marketing materials moving forward. Finally, the long-term plan is 5 or plus years. You'll notice this list is very short. The reason is because a lot can change in 5 years. This can include things such as consider ways to initiate or incentivize upgrades to older retail centers and commercial properties. At some point, Triangle East is going to want to redevelop. At some point, the Wedgwood Shopping Center is going to want to redevelop. Really figuring out the details and the parameters on how to best revitalize those areas through a form of redevelopment would fall under the long term. And that concludes my presentations. I'm available if you have any questions. Additionally, we do have Gary Mitchell, who is our consultant from Kendall Keast, available as well.
Okay, what I think I'll do is ask for comments and questions simply on this plan, and then we'll go to the transportation plan. So first I'll ask if either the town board or the planning board has any questions on this particular plan. Okay, any questions or comments from the audience? And Joe, you might ask them outside. Now, this is just this is not on the transportation plan. Yes, sir. If you have a question, I need you to please come to the podium. We need you up here so we can hear you. Okay.
Well, this here is very simple. Yeah, this is very simple. I just want to know all that you read out. You know, you don't have copies to give to us that we may carry it back with us?
Of the presentation?
Yes, sir.
We can get you copies.
Yes, sir. That's okay.
Okay, thank you. Nobody out there, Joe? Okay. Okay, I just want to be sure that everybody has an opportunity if they want to speak on this. Otherwise, we'll move on to the transportation plan. Okay. Michael?
Okay, the next component of this is the draft comprehensive land, or draft comprehensive plan, or transportation plan, sorry about that. This is the document that regulates the road network. Once again, it followed the exact same process, but instead of instead of Kendall Keast doing that part, this was done by Remy Kemp and Associates. Once again, it took the same 18-month process. It is important that these two plans were done in tandem with each other because they are intertwined. We need to make sure that we have the adequate road network to accommodate the land use, for the future land use map. So as well as the transportation component, the road widths, the interchanges, all of that will have an influence on the land use pattern as well. While it's not required by statute, it is necessary in order to obtain funding, specifically from CAMPO in terms of the Federal Highway Commission funds. If it's not on a plan, we're going to have almost no chance of obtaining funding for when we do things such as traffic lights or infrastructure projects such as the North of Rendell project. It is essentially the wires in a house. It's what makes everything flow. This needs to correspond with the land use plan. We see situations right now where the land uses have exceeded the capabilities of our existing transportation plan, specifically Old Bund Corridor, Proctor, Pierce's. All of these road networks are inadequate to meet the current need based on the new communities. This plan makes sure that the traffic infrastructure is safe for everybody. Once again, this also is a guidance document moving forward. It's the exact same public process that we went through in terms of the land use plan. We had public meetings, we had visioning sessions, we had the outdoor meeting blitz over a week-long time. Many of you, once again, were in attendance at these sessions. We focused on a lot of social media use during COVID-19 due to the inability, not being able to meet in public. This too is broken into multiple sections. The introduction really explains why this plan is relevant. And then chapter 1 goes into where are we at today. It reviewed the existing traffic counts, the crash data, and it was a very data-driven analysis to figure out what is the situation on the ground as we speak, because that creates a starting point of where do we need to go from there. Chapter 2 really goes into that, where do we need to go? We need to create that vision, and that vision was done in correspondence with the future land use plan. We need to figure out the values. Do we want to be auto-dominated, or do we want to have multimodal? Do we want to have safe pedestrian access throughout downtown? Do we want to have greenways? Those questions were answered during those public meetings to really establish the core values needed to create this road network plan, as well as the input from a wide range of folks. We met with surrounding communities. Our consultants discussed future plans heavily with Campo and the Northeast Area Study Plan, as well as NCDOT, to really understand, is this keeping with a lot of what they're asking for? Fortunately, you'll find that everything that we're proposing in terms of the state roads is consistent with the Northeast Area Study Plan, which was done by Campo. Chapter 3 goes into the details of the roadway elements. What are they going to look like? And as we mentioned during the work session a couple weeks ago, we're taking a different approach than we took in the past. Instead of having 7, 8 different land classifications, we really break it into 2 primary of a 4-lane divided and a 2-lane divided, but allow for that flexibility where if a developer comes in and there's certain parameters that don't allow that, or a certain situation that needs a modified roadway, we made sure that was included so we have the best foot forward initially to work synergistically with the community as well as the developers to find the best possible opportunity for those roadway alignments. Chapter 4 goes into the pedestrian and bicycle element. This is the greenways, sidewalks, pedestrian area connectivity, essentially everything outside of your vehicle. Finally, it goes into the transit element. We are growing. We currently have 1 stop, and there's discussions with the Go Triangle about a future 2nd stop, at the Northeast, or the Northeast Regional Center, or the East Regional Center. And there's a micro-mobility component that's coming online later this year that Jessica had commented about during the work session a couple weeks ago. Those details are all outlined in the transportation element. Once again, the heart of these plans is the map. This map is our future roadway map. As I noted, it really looks at 2 classifications with a 3rd subcategory for just a couple roads where that level of alignment requires a much narrower cross-section based on limited access. But this looks at kind of all the different possibilities, not only to serve the growth now, but also in the future. The other reason this is significant is as development continues, having these details on this map allow us to work with the development community to show, okay, there's a collector street shown on this plan that goes through your parcel. This isn't an absolute alignment, but we need to work with you to figure out how do we connect point A to point B and make sure that's effective not only for the town, but also for the surrounding residential uses or commercial uses to make sure it's not going to negatively impact their traffic congestion. We do provide quite a bit of detail once you get into this map. As an example, and the laser died. Judd Street, a couple months ago, with our existing transportation plan, we extended Judd Street all the way out to Worth Hinton because of need for cross-connectivity. With that, we realized, okay, our regulations require it connect to adjacent residential neighborhoods. But that cross-section that was initially in place is not appropriate for that context. So that's why we included that third category of having a two-lane undivided, which is more of a local residential connection versus a collector street. The plan also really illustrates several traffic calming opportunities as well. The picture on the top left as an example, thank you. The picture in the top left is an example of bulb outs. Something like this on a Rendell, as an example, not only increase the pedestrian safety for those who want to cross, but also reduces traffic speeds. They see the narrowing at the particular intersections. When they're combined with alternative surface materials, it further creates a traffic calming element, which then creates safer situations for both vehicular as well as pedestrian traffic. The plan also provides several cross sections of various degrees, depending upon the context of where that development is and how everything's being constructed around it. Different cross sections could go into that same width. As an example, this is more of a downtown urbanized style 80-foot, whereas in several other situations, it might require a 2 or even a 4-lane median divided, where here the turning lane becomes more of a necessity than anything else. As I noted, the plan did work concurrently with the Northeast Area Study Plan, and this is an example of the work that they've done. The town is currently looking to do the construction and design for the interchange or the intersection of Shepherd School and Old Bun. That's in response to development pressures, and that's an example of where we were able to use transportation impact funds as well as fee in lieu for some of the components, where it was a multi-pod investment to make sure that those improvements meet the needs of the community. But our ability really stopped at that intersection. The Northeast Area Study really looked at the entire corridor, including the intersection of Pierce's and Proctor, of realizing there's an issue there. There's so much of an issue there. The accident count is 6 times higher than what the state average is for similar context in terms of distance and land uses. Because of that, they did analysis and determined, okay, possibly something like a roundabout could be there, as well as a traffic calming measure, having intermittent green planted areas instead of in the median, and then in appropriate locations having actual turn lanes. And they included an example of what that cross section could look like without the median. And that concludes my presentation, and once again, I am available if you have any questions, and our consultant, Jessica, from Remy Kemp & Associates, is available if you have any questions for her.
Okay, first I'll ask a question from the town board.
Yeah, so talk to me about the bulb outs on Arundel. I thought that NCDOT was not going to give us permission to do that.
Currently, NCDOT has indicated that they're not in support of a mid-block crossing. We have not pursued the bulb outs as of yet. There's several municipalities that have bulb outs on state roads, but the mid-block crossing would essentially be a bulb out not at an intersection, and they said that it was too close to the nearby intersections.
I'd like to have a little bit more of an understanding how this stamped sidewalk is a traffic calming measure, because the one that we currently have provides little to no auditory alignment method when you're driving over it. And as far as I've experienced, people are still running over tea kettle right through that intersection. So if we are in the budget, I believe it says that they want to spend $137,000 to stamp more of these things. That's going to be a really tough sell for me, so I need to understand how that's actually a traffic calming method.
Okay, well, I can tell you from a planner's perspective, and then I'm going to defer to Jessica for the professional engineer's perspective. But the visual connotation when you're driving along, seeing that separation of colors and materials does inherently raise awareness. That's why you see in certain situations where you might just have the two white stripes going across. However, in certain situations, you have what's called a high visibility crossing, and those stripes are turned 90 degrees and are much wider. That is a differential from what you would typically see as a crossing. So there's been studies that have done that shows that those visual context changes do allow for slowing of traffic and raising awareness. The other side of it is there's a little bit of a textual change. I know I feel it as I'm driving my F-150 over it. It's not substantial, it's not a speed hump, it's not anything that's going to be jarring, but it is distinctively different than the asphalt that you drive on for the rest of it. But with that, I'm going to turn that over to Jessica because she's a licensed professional engineer and understands a lot of this much better than I do.
Thanks, Mike. Good evening. Hate to say it, but Mike pretty much nailed it. So it's to raise awareness of the presence of pedestrians.
Why can't we paint it then?
Painted's a possibility. The stamp just brings that extra textural and visual friction to slow a person down, to know that that's there.
Okay, I just haven't experienced any of that when I have been observing traffic going through town with our experimental one that we have going on now. So,
Using this type of thing in conjunction with the bulb outs is usually a pairing that happens to give greater visibility to the pedestrians. It's kind of after people drive over it a couple times, it's kind of an indicator of, oh, there's probably pedestrians around here. I know when we were going through the plan, a lot of people felt unsafe maybe crossing the road because they didn't feel like drivers were expecting pedestrians. So it's kind of a training to subconsciously, if you will, train the driver of, oh, I see, here's a painted crosswalk, there's probably people coming. In and of itself, I don't think you'll see 5-10 mile per hour reductions. It's a tool to help with that, to raise awareness.
so can you talk to me about the difference between having this very expensive stamped crosswalk and just perhaps having more police presence or a calming device such as your speed is?
To also go back to the stamped asphalt, part of what makes these successful is when they're done in repetition. This is one. Well, when you get multiple in repetition going through there, that tactile response becomes more noticeable throughout the vehicle, especially being that throughout throughout that entire section, there right now the only thing is those painted lines. Once these are included at Sycamore, Horton, Vance, then you get this repetitive effect that kind of multiplies that potential aspect of traffic calming.
Can you please get me information about similar towns and similar traffic patterns who have used this kind of traffic calming measure so that I can have actual hard data that supports what you're trying to tell me? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the town board? Any from the planning board?
Yes, I would like for you to turn to map 17. So we can, page 17, so we can look at the map. And if you could zoom in for me, the exit off of water plant, green paste and water plant. So we can look at that closely. And so we can see that green circle there.
Yeah.
And that blue dotted line going through Water Plant Road, and I guess it connects with Green Place and Water Plant Road. We have some direct concerns, myself especially, as well as the community, concerns about that proposed exit coming off Green Place Road and Water Plant Road, and that two-lane divided roadway coming through our neighborhoods. It should be rerouted around another proposed area. And some of the main concerns are environmental concerns. There's a live stream coming through my backyard which goes into Braemar subdivision, and a road should not be running through this environmental area. Also, economically, it is extremely costly to put a road through there. We have to purchase land, many single-family homes, moving graveyards, going through neighborhoods, putting up noise barriers, plus not to mention those environmental issues. Also, it hinders future proposed development of homes, greenways, parkways, and the way of living for Zebulon community, growing the future of Zebulon. Single-family homes in this community will be displaced, as well as we all know that Wake County is becoming unaffordable as far as housing, and if these families are displaced, where will they move? How can they afford it? A lot of these people in this community are retirees, and they will have to relocate possibly, or deal with the noise or other issues that come along. Also, there's a lot of young children that live in the community, and they walk to the park, Little River Park, and it is located on that street. A lot of families walk to work. I know that families work at Hillbillies or Bojangles, and I see a lot of people walking to work, and that roadway would be a hindrance there. They will have to cross it to get to where they're going. And not to mention just the noise, the safety concerns, just people trying to back up their driveway. I think that we can work together as a community to get this road relocated another way.
Excellent point, Stephanie. I really agree with that. I feel like we should be working to try and solve this in a different manner, because just the expense alone, I have a feeling that there are probably other roadways that can be utilized instead of what looks like an unbearably expensive bypass.
Let me jump in on that. That was originally proposed like maybe 15 or 20 years ago.
Why is it still on the map then?
Right.
What?
Why is it still on this map then?
I'm getting there. It was proposed, and then it just sort of disappeared. Now, at that time, my understanding was that if you were proposing to take the right-of-way, you had to do it within 7 years. And if you didn't do it within 7 years, then you had to buy it. Well, again, this was a long time ago, and then all of a sudden it reappeared here. Now, I don't know why all of a sudden it came out, other than there have been some cries, if you will, for a bypass to move these trucks from north to south or vice versa around downtown, and that's where that came from. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying I thought it had gone away, and it didn't. The other problem with it, and it may be a problem, it may not, is the watershed, because it is proposed to go through Little River watershed, and I don't know how that's going to set with, can you do that? I guess maybe you could change the rules and do it, but I think it's way out there, and I agree with you. We've tried to look for other methods of bypassing downtown. 39 comes to mind. The problem is that 39 pulls away from 96 as it goes north, and there's not a good way yet to come back across, unless you want to throw it right into Wakefield, and I don't think anybody really wants to do that. So that's just some of the history. I don't know why it just all of a sudden popped up again, but I do agree with you. My understanding was that there would not be interchanges at Green Place and Water Plant. But I don't know if it was bridges or tunnels or just what it was. I mean, that's all future, if in fact this does continue to stay in the process. I don't know if that history helps you or not, but anyway, I agree with you. Okay.
I guess I don't have really a question, but I've got a statement. I don't feel comfortable, and I won't vote for anything that's going to go through a watershed and that's going to negatively impact our citizens in such a major way. So please take that into consideration. I think that this needs to be reworked.
Sure. So with that, Mayor, this came back as a continuation on the Northeast Area Study by the MPO. Now, with that said, this is a Town of Zebulon plan. There can be considerations to make adjustments to it.
Correct.
The MPO is not going to come down and say, y'all have to have this road. They're not going to. A little context here, we've got up the full map. Okay, perfect. So it's a little hard to see on this one, but the thing to keep in mind with a comprehensive transportation plan is that you're getting your intent for the future on the documented. So it's not an official alignment of the roadway, it's the intent to connect point A to point B. This, as was mentioned, was talked about as potential truck bypass to get trucks out of downtown. It can also be used for development north of 64 to come over and potentially access 64, so it's not all running through the interchange at 96 right now. With that said, the alignment can, and I do agree, should be adjusted to move this interchange. You're right, they're too close. It would have to be about, I don't know if you guys can, right about there to be a mile away.
And where is right about there? Where is that?
Near the edge of the study.
So 1 mile puts us about here from NC 96. So that's where the feds would start entertaining another access point. What? Oh, approximately Little River.
I have a feeling that they're not going to want to put an interchange through Little River. Just guessing.
Right. So before any of this would even think about hitting the ground, it would go through an extensive vetting and analysis process with NCDOT, Federal Highway, the Department of Environmental, Natural Resources, to see what alignment, if there is one, would be least impactful to the environmental, to residents that live there, to development that's coming. And they're not just going to slam a line down there. And one of the reasons to not put it here is exactly as you're saying. Your houses are there. That counts big time in an analysis. So there's discussion, and I want to get, can I ask for thoughts on this? Or we can look at potentially maintaining or retaining the connection on the north side to help provide a relief valve for development coming here and going west, and revisit the necessity and usefulness for a connection on the south side, whether it's out here and coming down. It absolutely won't be through here. Again, the intent would be to connect 64 down to 96 to help relieve some of the congestion downtown in the trucks.
If you look at this once upon a time proposed plan that nobody likes, it involved land acquisition and a lot of other things to have the stars align to make it happen. Why can't we just do that plan, but more towards dumping onto 39, even if it takes us a little bit out of the way. I mean, quite honestly, I don't care if it takes a truck an extra 3 minutes to stay out of Zebulon. I don't care.
So you're saying encourage taking 64 down to 39 and then you take 39 south to their destination?
Correct, correct.
And that-
I'd like to see that on the plan and not this other route.
I agree, that would be the best way to do this. And
Okay.
part of the intent behind the plan hopefully is that with the revitalization of downtown and drawing people to it and increasing pedestrian traffic and folks sitting outside and opportunities for entertainment, is that it's no longer attractive for an 18-wheeler tanker to go through there. They know they're gonna have to sit at every stoplight to allow pedestrians to cross. They'll do that maybe once or twice, time is money, and they'll figure out, look at their GPS, hey, if I keep on going down to 39, that gives me a highway shot down. Now, I do believe Mike looked at it and it's the same, it's a little bit longer, but it is the same time. So if we can create the vibrant downtown that naturally will displace the heavier vehicles that they're not going downtown. They don't want to deal with that. They want to get to their endpoint as quick as possible. We can make that a stronger point in the study, absolutely. As far as mapping, I'll need to chew on that to figure out if we can do that. DOT is in charge of truck routes, so that may be a conversation to have with them. I know we can't restrict them through downtown, but the most active thing we can do is make it very, not pleasant for them to have to drive through downtown to make it at least a lesser viable option.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
was Farrell Road considered to be the way to get back across to 96 from 39?
New Jack Mitchell,
Farrell Road, the blue line across the top. Nope, you just lost it.
Yep.
Right there.
yes, so this would provide, good night. Another alternative connection so that folks aren't, again, everybody funneling down to Pippin and Debnam. It'll give an option. And if we bring this down and work in an interchange at 64, it'll help relieve congestion, take the through traffic out of here, and improve the safety conditions.
Okay.
Can you show I'm sorry, can you show on the map the area of where Pineview is and how the proposed dotted line would run? And zoom in a little bit closer.
You had it.
You had it,
Right
right
there.
there. I'm trying to get an idea of the proposed point that it's going to cross over.
Well, that route is not etched in granite, but when it was originally looked at some years ago, it was about where Lowe's used to be.
That's what I was thinking in my
Right.
head. And I understand that it's not etched in stone.
Right.
But at the same token, it's up there.
I understand.
And that is close to stone. So that's why there's a lot of folks that don't care for it. I mean,
No, and I understand that. I fully do.
nobody said
And-
you're not.
Well, it's got a long way to go. So anyway, good point though. But Lowe's was about where it was coming across there.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, okay.
The other facet of this to continue with Commissioner Baxter's point is one of the easiest ways to eliminate this line is to make sure that is, as Jessica said, unpleasant for these 18-wheelers to go through downtown. And that's where the other traffic calming incentives, such as that stamped crosswalk, those ball boats, the potential roundabout at Gannon and Rendell. Those features, when done concurrently with each other, help to naturally relocate that truck traffic to 39.
Okay, other questions from the planning board? Okay, we have, I'm going to call on anyone that wants to speak, but we do have 2 written comments, and I'm going to ask Stacy to read those, and then I'll call for anything in the general audience, any comments.
This comment is from Mary Byrne. I have heard from my neighbors there is a plan to expand Green Pace Road to 4 lanes. I believe this should not be done. When we decided to move to Zebulon 20 years ago, we wanted to move away from the city of Raleigh and live in a small town. I understand every town needs to grow, but converting our agricultural lands to roads take away from livestock habitats. We have horses, cattle, and livestock on Green Pace Road, and a 4-lane road would disrupt their tranquility. Everyone needs the fields and agriculture in Zebulon without the town taking away our land, no matter how small an amount, because it will just increase every time the town wants to expand. Next comment is Alora Swan. My husband and I live on Green Pace Road with our horses, dogs, cats, and chickens. We love Zebulon, but our road is already dangerous as a 2-lane road and should absolutely not be widened past the intersection of Green Pace Road and Highway 96. People know that there are never any cops on the road, so they already fly past our house. The town says that we are not within their jurisdiction, and therefore they cannot patrol our road to catch speeders. We did contact the Wake County Sheriff's Office as well, but we have not had any luck getting someone out to patrol the area. The best option for the intersection of Green Pace and Highway 96 would be a traffic circle to keep the flow of cars constantly moving. Right now, it's nearly impossible to get through that intersection during busy times, and a traffic light would not solve the problem. With just a traffic light, cars would still get backed up in all directions, causing secondary issues in other nearby intersections. A traffic circle, on the other hand, would reduce the risk of crashes and keep the roads from getting clogged during the heavy travel times. It would also eliminate the need for costly road widening, as we would not need to add additional turn lanes. Thank you for letting our voice be heard, and we hope you will consider adding a traffic circle instead of widening the road.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll call for anyone from the audience that wants to speak. Sure.
Thank you. Only take a few minutes. I could say if you had that map up, I'm the yellow solid line. But I'm more than that line. I'm more than Lot 2, and I'm more than Green Pace Road. But I'm here because of the plan to widen Green Pace Road. Like what was read a couple of minutes ago, it's a lot, you know, and to hear y'all talk, I know we have some caring people. And to read this report, y'all have some good plans, some positive things, and the guiding principles that you put down, I agree with. Neighborhoods that are safe and comfortable for all residents, preserve and enhance the integrity and value of existing neighborhoods. Let me say that again. Preserve and enhance integrity and value of existing neighborhoods. Widening Green Pace Road to 4 lanes just won't do that. I just don't see how, you know, and so I'm just saying, the map, I know it's planned and it's not foundable, but just think about, it's a lot of people that will be affected that's not here today. There's a lot of people that are here and can talk for themselves and tell you why this is not a good plan, and y'all heard that. Just think about those solid lines that's on that map as people, children, families, and animals that's gonna be affected. I just say, just pause and think how you can grow Zebulon. And I think it could be done. You know, we could look 20 and 30 years down the line and grow Zebulon, but don't hurt the people who has invested in this plan. And I'm sorry just to be talking today, but I didn't know until Friday till a neighbor reached out to me. And I know that it was on Facebook. I'm one of the few people that's not on Facebook. But taxis can always find me on Green Pace Road. you know. And so it's a lot of people that just been here just did not know. And I know y'all want to be inclusive. Anything that negative affect a group of people, you need to take an extra step and reach for them to be inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Ma'am, could you state your name for the record? I didn't get your name.
I'm sorry, it's Angela Harper King.
Could you please do it at the microphone?
Well, okay, sorry. We record this, and so.
I'm sorry, it's Angela Harper, Harper King.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, sir, I believe you were wanting to say something. Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Henry Jenkins. I live at 745 Water Plant Road. First, I just want to say I oppose to this map of slide 17. What concerned me was when you mentioned that that proposed road was drawn several years ago, but it still exists. I have concerns about that because if it was not intended to be on the map, why is it still there? And if I feel like from the public perspective, we do not stand up and speak against it, then what was there a few years ago is going to be there 5 years from now, and you're going to pass it. And I have concerns about that land, about that road coming through Green Pace Road, Water Plant Road, not simply for the fact that it's coming across my land, but it's going to go across many other citizens' land. And there's already traffic issues in our area. Going to Green Pace and NC 96, there's a traffic issue there now, even though I know there are markers there indicating that the intersection is going to be widened. I'm just assuming there's going to be a stoplight put in. But anytime there's an accident off of Highway 64, traffic tends to find its way onto Liz Lick Road, down NC 97, and then back on the Green Pace and Water Plant Road, heading back towards 96. Without a doubt, growth is going to come, whether I like it or not. I can't control that, can't stop it. But I do ask you to find another route for this road, proposed road, that you indicated that should not be there, if you would just take consideration of redrawing it elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yeah. Okay, we've got one here. Let's. Either one, come on up if you. Okay.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Patty Allen, and I'm one of the property owners out at Water Plant Road, and I also oppose the highway coming through out there because I was raised out there, and like everybody else said, I know that progress has to come, but we wish it would come a different route. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Herb McClure. I live out on Pierce's Road at just past Honeycutt's Curve. And looking at the plan of the layout, I didn't see anything that addresses the issue of getting the traffic out of this town. I see lots of things about roundabouts, intersections of four ways, but nothing to actually get it out on 264 or any way to get them toward RTP. I hope that's going to be addressed, but it doesn't do a lot of good to spend a lot of money on the inner part and nothing to get it away. And that's what's happening right now in Zebulon. You see a lot of traffic moving, but it gets to the Sheets intersection and it stops. I come into Zebulon sometimes to go to Home Depot, and the traffic is backed up all the way to Proctor Street through that intersection. Especially during the school hours, there's a lot of ladies trying to get their kids through that intersection off of 96 Pierce's Road, and then to the school, and then they go to the other side, maybe they head to Walmart or wherever, but they can't go anywhere. They're stopped. And four-ways and roundabouts they sound great in theory, but in reality of getting your traffic moved out of a particular area, it just don't happen, especially if you've got more traffic than the intersection can handle. And that's what's getting ready to happen with Zebulon. Out on Pierce's Road, we've got 400 houses going in to try to come to the Sheets intersection. And I've been told, well, that's just 400 houses, Herb. Well, 400 houses equals at least 800 cars. And I don't know how many is going out on Bunn Road. I've heard anything from 4,000 to 6,000 on that side of town. Now, where do those people have to come to get out onto the highway? To the intersection at Shepherd School, and they're at the Boys Club, and they're stopped there. Either that or they go to the other end, to the Walmart, and there's no way to get them out there. So you've got a lot of planning. I think planning is good, but somewhere along the line, you need to look at it from a standpoint, okay, we've got them moved, but how do we get rid of them and get them really to their destination? And I didn't see it in this plan at all. So somebody needs to think about that before you jump off the cliff, because I was here, 4 years ago, and we were talking about putting the medians down the street, and there's nothing happened there. And I think one thing that every community's doing it, they're letting subdivisions drive everything else. And they're just not putting enough planning back into the people that are doing the subdivisions to make it work for the communities. They're making us spend a lot of money because those people want a place to live, and some investors making a lot of money building houses or building homes, and that's a good thing. But we've got to have more intercommunication or something up front before you do all these things. So.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
I'll say one more thing.
If you come back to the podium, but come on now.
At the Sheets intersection, this is a pet peeve of mine. You've got all those businesses there at the across there at that little Quick Pick, Dash In and everything, the beauty shop, and now we've got the taco truck, and now in the weekends we've got people selling fish there at that intersection, and it compounds an area that's already cluttered up and clogged with people who want to buy stuff. One thing the board and planning people could do is plan a place. If you're going to have a taco truck or any type of food in a vehicle like that, this is the area the city wants you to do it in, not in a traffic island or an island around an existing business. I don't see how that's allowed to happen, but it is happening. And there's more taco trucks popping up every day.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wanda Harris Bennett. I live on Water Plant Road. But like Henry Jenkins was saying, I'm a fifth generation descendant of the little area. That little area used to be called Hightown. We used to get mail over there when I was a child. Hightown, North Carolina, USA, and it was delivered there. We have a graveyard, a family graveyard. That's right there on Worthington Road. That graveyard was started prior to 1865. My great-grandfather was born a slave. He died a professor, graduated from Shaw in 1893. I, too, am a fifth-generation educator. Henry's a fifth generation of Fannie, as is Patty. The first road came through and split up all the land that the Highs had when they built Worthington Road. Instead of bringing it out straight, they curved it and split the land because 264 and 64 was coming. So there was not a lot of land, but what little bit had been heir in that family since the 1800s was split. So if you have an exit there, it would impact the graveyard, the family graveyard. Like I said, it's been there since before 1865. It'll impact a lot of families over there. A lot of people in Zebulon may not know about our family history, but we've been there a long time. Some of us have not left. I'm one of them. And I have one daughter and a granddaughter who knows that family history. We have people that come from different parts of the United States just to see a little piece of family history in that area. I too don't want the widening of the highway nor the exit to come off Green Pace Road to come through that area, because it is important to me and it's important to other family members and it's important to the people that live in the Braemar subdivision as well. I envision being blocked off by a service road or just my house sitting there vacant because of so much traffic and a new highway coming through. But I don't want it there. I'm hoping that you can reroute it and think of another way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anyone else? Hold a minute. Is there anyone, Joe? Oh, he wants to speak, okay. I'll get to you.
Yes, my name is Frederick McDuffie. I too stay on off on Green Pace Road, which is River Ridge in the subdivision. And been there 28 years, and I remember when I first moved into Zebulon, there was not traffic at all. It was like a ghost town. So I'm from Dunn, but I grew up in Zebulon 28 years, and we had 7 kids, and 7 kids are pretty much grown. But yet I have seen, since the 28 years of being in Zebulon, I have seen how the traffic have gotten, congested. But one thing I do want to say is, I understand what the guy before me was saying. I see and I hear about bringing traffic in Zebulon around the Green Pace Road. But what about going out? Because when I leave in the morning time, when I get up, when I go to get on Green Pace Road, go to 96, it's traffic. I mean, when I say traffic, if you don't hurry up and get out, because the traffic coming off 96, can there be another way that you can reroute it instead of putting a bypass, on the Green Pace exit? Because what it do then is put trucks in my area. It put, when it come down to carbon dioxide, when it come down to truck pollution, then you bring it to our area. So I too don't want to see the road, on Green Pace or widen, 96, 97, I think. There are 2 great roads to widen. 96 and 97, there are 2 lanes. I think if you widen 96 and 97, I think that will help out tremendous instead of coming to a rural area with just 2 roads, bunches of houses, but not a way to get out. And then putting 4 roads to bring more traffic to our side. I don't think that will help out at all. So if you can, please, if you could ride another way, it would be grateful and thankful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Wanda Harris Bennett again. The Glaxo traffic. That back gate comes out on Wharf Hinton Road. We pick up the trash on that road, and they have people who have adopted the road and pick it up. Within 3 days, it's back. We find the people when they come out of that back gate for their lunch, or people who are working for Glaxo, or doing something over at Glaxo, they come on the side of the road, they throw the trash into the graveyard, they throw trash on the left side of the road. There's trash all around that road. And ever so often, there's a pickup where they clean the pickup trash on the entire road of Worth Hinton. I own property on Worth Hinton, but I live on water plant. But I still come up there and have to pick up the paper, and these people just dump trash out, and most of the time, if you sit and watch, they go into that back gate, they're out there for that lunch. And the tractor trailers that come in for Glaxo, oftentimes, they're parked on the side of the road. If they got a layover, they can't get in that back gate to deliver, they will park on the side of the road of Worth Hinton, in the curb on the left-hand side, because somewhere, I guess the town of Zebulon or the county, whatever, made a little spot over on the side of the road where they dump some dirt, and people just go over there and park their tractor trailers or whatever. And they posted some no parking signs, but it does absolutely no good. And like I said, when I sit there and view, they're the employees or people doing contract work for Glaxo, because once they eat their lunch and throw it out the window, they just go in that back gate. So that's an issue, that's a concern that I see. I know I can't do anything about it by myself, but I do get out there and pick up the trash because it looks so ugly.
Okay, thank you.
Any help that we can to we like to keep our neighborhood clean too.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else in the audience that has remarks? I know there.
My name is Jacqueline McDuffie, and I live on River Ridge, which is right off of Green Pace. And a lot of my neighbors, they have said something. We actually did not know about this meeting. A lot of us did not know about it. And then when we got the information, we started spreading it around. And I have neighbors on Green Pace who have done things that if you come and take part of their land, they're gonna have to remove some of the stuff that they have put out there. But it's not only that, when one of my neighbors has his cows, they watch us walk up and down the street. They hear all the noise and the congestion that's going on now, and what you're proposing is even more. I'm not right on Green Pace, but if I can hear the noise from my house now, and you're talking about moving my neighbor's yards further back in order to add another lane, that's gonna put even more noise closer to us. And they already complain about the noise at night that's zipping by them when they're at home. And I hear the noise too. I don't hear it on the capacity that they do, but I can hear it. And like I said, we can have like a horse per acre, and we have you're proposing to take some of their land, which would cut them having the extra horse. Another thing is our land is on the corner of the watershed. Some of my neighbors are pretty much actually right, almost centered to it. And now you're proposing to come in and cut through where the watershed is. That's not gonna help us out either. So I'm against this. I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience that has remarks? Okay.
Hello, Michael Tafoni from the Braemar subdivision. I'm the secretary of the board, and thank you for giving us a moment to talk about this. We're highly opposed to any other traffic around our development. Now, we just found out about this a few days ago, and naturally our first question was, what about the natural watershed that we are encapsulated with, that we've had USGS on our property 4 years ago because we have a water problem there already. So I naturally reached out to them because we've had them on our property, and they not sure you can do anything with the water as it is already. It costs us $10,000 to put about a 7-foot section in just so we can cut our own property grass. So we would ask you to really look into anything around our development, because any added water around our development is going to increase our water flow in a 100-year floodplain that we already own and will cost our residents to obtain flood insurance upon other burdens that we are going to obtain, you know, with extra water from an impervious service. Not to mention the amount of garbage, traffic. We're trying to relocate our playground to a section of property that is going to be right along that road now, because we just had arson on our playground. I do believe it was the end of last year, and it was burned down, and we're still having trouble trying to even get the old equipment out of there because of being in a natural watershed. So we just ask, you know, if there's anything you can do to keep any further roadways around our development, we greatly appreciate it, because we're having a hard enough time with the water as it is. A lot of our land is already flooding because it doesn't have anywhere to go. Zebulon was just there, I'd say about 2 months ago, to try to clean out the natural springs that are actually, a pond was filled in so they could build a development, and they rerouted the water through parts of development. Now, one question I had for you guys was, I saw on the maps that you all laid there was missing all the water through my development. Why was that? I thought it was kind of funny that the natural waterway was missing on the maps. If you go on iMaps and look up the natural waterways, it shows you right where the pond is and about 4 or 5 streams that runs through the whole area that you can't build anything or go on. We can't even use that area because you're not allowed. But once again, we'd appreciate you looking into anything further before you build around our natural watershed, and hopefully can find another way to reroute the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other audience that wants to give remarks? Okay, I want to go back to first the planning board, because I know we have one.
Jessica, can you clarify some data for me, please? It's not in the presentation, so I'm hoping you have this available, but what was the current capacity of Pierce's, Arundel, and Green Pace, like percentage-wise? I know we're over capacity on all of those roads, correct? Do we recall what they were?
Yeah, let me.
And then future, if nothing is done, we had those numbers, I believe, as well, correct?
Do.
I'm sorry, I'm
That's all right.
asking you to dig, but it's pretty significant, if I recall, what is already on Arundel as far as capacity, and Pierce's and Green Pace.
Yes, so I'm not sure why they're not in here. But Arundel was carrying about 26,000 vehicles per day north of 64, which is exceeding the capacity of the roadway. Typical capacity, I know it's wider there, but just in general terms, if you're thinking of a 2-lane roadway going through, that can carry about 12 to 14,000 vehicles a day. So as we're getting closer in, the volumes are increasing. I don't have my phone on me. Don't think I have those exact numbers.
But I know at Green Pace and Arundel, it also narrows, which makes that capacity even higher as far as what it can carry. I mean, you were talking 26,000 at the wider part of Arundel, and it can currently supposed to carry 14,000. We're almost double. But then it narrows at Green Pace and Arundel, correct? So that's going to pinch that traffic even more that's going out further north, where more development is coming, which means more traffic, more people. And the same thing goes with Pierce's, where the one gentleman was talking about coming down to Sheets. You know, you have more development coming off of Pierce's, and all of that's coming into that intersection where it's all getting pinched, and it's already at almost double the capacity. So something's got to give at some point in time, because it's going to start getting fatal at some point.
Oh.
I didn't see it in the
I
presentation.
don't think it is. No, I was trying to get back to the overall map to kind of discuss the, Can I zoom in on this? Yeah, here we go. So to discuss a little bit about the methodology behind the 4-lane and the 2-lane designations. Yes, absolutely. You take away lanes, capacity of the roadway is lessened. The focus behind this and this plan is to really create a place for downtown. So you'd want to minimize the roadway cross sections through there to make it a better place for pedestrian traffic, for bikers, for people to feel safe out on the sidewalk having dinner or crossing the street. And by restricting these cross sections and increasing the capacity on the surrounding roadways is allowing the folks that their destination is not downtown. Those folks can take an outer route that has more capacity to bypass downtown. It's similar to the trucks going out to NC 39. If they don't want to go through downtown, you're not going to go through downtown. So you're going to find potentially a different way if you come across here and it's got the capacity to handle more vehicles, and maybe head out this way parallel to 64 if you don't want to deal with that. So that one of the focuses of the plan is to really kind of focus on redeveloping downtown and creating an appropriate scale of vehicle and human interaction in appropriate places.
Are you able to provide us that information though, those numbers?
Yes.
I know you have them.
Yes, they will be appendix, but we can move them into the report if that would be.
I think it would be helpful to know where we're currently sitting and know that it's just going to get worse if we don't start handling some of it now.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Go
God.
ahead.
Sorry, that was really loud. It's an accurate statement to say, though, that a lot of the outside, is it the yellow that's 4
Yes,
lanes?
yes.
Okay. That is taken into account looking at the model, which is looking into the future for future counts, which is also taking into account the future development that's slated. So it is taking into account like all these different trips that will be created from many more people living here. So I was just piggybacking off of your concern that the numbers are taken into account for future widening, I believe.
And there's also, right now they are updating that model. It was a 2045 run, and they're gonna do the 2050. The MPO is, which will take into consideration the thousands of houses that have cropped up that weren't necessarily incorporated in the last one. So once that model's done and the results are out, it would probably behoove the town staff or to kind of revisit and see, make sure everything still aligns or if there's stuff to look at. This is a working plan. It can be amended and it can be changed if something drastically changes.
Okay, is that all? Okay.
I'm sorry, can I make
Yeah.
a further comment? It's not really a question. Just to clarify, because it wasn't really said per se, is that these lines on the map does not mean that tomorrow or next year or in 5 years, we're going to go out and widen this to 5 lanes automatically. It could be just widening enough to give a turn lane. But it's saying that we want to plan for having those easements, the right of way, to allow us the possibility of increasing to 4 lanes if needed. So, it's not to say that we're going to develop this 4-lane tomorrow or in the next 10 years. It's to say we want to reserve the right to possibly do it if the case is warranted. But again, that would require, I'm assuming, additional study of the capacity of those roads and development and all that.
Yeah, and Mike's chomping at the bit for this one, so but yes.
The answer to that question is the majority of the road development that you see is actually responsible because of the developers. As part of that additional study, if a developer came in and looked to do a construction on Deadman Road, as an example, once this plan is approved, if that blue line goes through their portion of the parcel, we can require that they construct it. If that yellow line is on their frontage, we can require they construct from center line to property line, making sure that these documents in place give the planning staff, the public works staff, and other departments the adequate guidance to require these improvements be made by the development community. On the flip side is where the town would then have to otherwise fund a lot of these improvements. So making sure that we get this plan right allows us to not fund as much of these public improvements as opposed to working with the development community to make sure that they fund those improvements.
Okay, yeah, to reiterate, it's a work in progress. Other questions or comments from the planning board? Any from the town board? Yes, Shannon.
It seems that when we talk about interchanges, there's this 1 mile limit that we keep talking about. It has to be a mile in between, it has to be a mile in between, but there are plenty of examples where that is not the case in some of these larger cities already, and those interchanges that are less than a mile between each other have acted to drastically reduce congestion and to promote the free flow of traffic. So is this a trend with NCDOT, this 1 mile requirement, or is this something where we might have some wiggle room if we find that our transportation plan really warrants it?
Sure. So the 1 mile spacing is the preferred distance from the Federal Highway Administration for new interchanges going forward. It's similar in line to not having a plan in place and everything develops and then you've got all of this stuff out there. So now the federal government's looking at it and said, okay, we've got a lot of interchange. Beltline, perfect example. Pop, 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 pop. So if you drive around the Beltline, there's a lot of interaction between some of those exits that gets a little iffy. So what they're trying to do is prevent that. So the 1 mile is the guidance that they usually go for. Are there less? Yes, I've seen new interchanges go in with less. That would be part of the interchange access report study that would happen through NCDOT and Federal Highway. They would look at the traffic that would be coming to this interchange and that's on the freeway, and they look at different configurations to see how it would operate there, like say at the off-ramp at 96, how that micro level would, but they also include interchanges on each side to make sure there's not a negative impact or queuing on the one or the other. So it's not to say that, no, you absolutely can't have anything that's less than a mile. It's just a rule of thumb that they use. And it would be a discussion and further analysis to make sure that everything works.
Can we lean on Campo to help us with some of those studies? I think Mike has.
Campo would need to fund.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they would be of the magnitude of.
Okay, okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Last call. Anyone? You want to have any remarks? Sorry.
When you live a mile outside of the city limits, is what I guess you call the ETJ area, we don't have no say-so, we don't get to vote, we don't know, whatever y'all decide to do, we have to abide by your rules. But there's a lack of communication somehow or another. If you're not on Facebook or if you're not doing social media, I guess you don't know what's going on or whatever your plans are. Could that be a concern to let somebody know? I know, in the past, we have not known. You stick a little piece of paper up out in the field on somebody's property, letting you know what you're gonna do, and if you don't go out there and find that little piece of paper flapping in the wind, you'll never know.
That's what Mike's been doing, actually. You've just missed all of his, he uses Post-it notes. Just kidding, just kidding.
So,
No, I understand what you're saying. In answer to not being represented, you do have representatives on the planning board that come and live in the ETJ. So you do have some representation.
Well, I know that now.
Yeah, okay, I know. I'm just trying to be sure to get it on the floor so everybody understands. On this board, no, you don't, because this is municipal board elected by the citizens of the town. To my way of thinking, we've tried everything we know. We're open to suggestions. We can't mail. I mean, it's just prohibitive to mail something out every time you've got a meeting, but we do post it on our town website, social media. Mike, you want to speak to that? And again, let me assure you, if you've got a good suggestion, we're open to hear it.
Yeah, the state statute requires for plans like this that we post it in a paper of general circulation within the area 2 times before the hearing. That was posted last Thursday as well as the Thursday before. There's time separations. We actually went above and beyond that. There was information posted on the town's website as well as all of our social media accounts. Not only our planning page, but also the downtown and the town page as a whole. The only additional element that we might have considered was a mass mailing, and unfortunately that would have included everybody all the way up to Rollsville and Wake Forest and into multiple counties. And the question is at that point, being that we're going beyond state statute, where do we stop?
I understand, but again, we're open to suggestions.
and my last question is, the dotted line, the proposal, somebody had to make a suggestion, and you said that you thought it was, I wrote it down in my notes or something, it was forgotten about. And now the dotted line with the proposal of the line is back. How do we get that proposal changed to go to not go to that? What has to be done?
Yeah, I don't think I said it was forgotten, or if I did, I misspoke. I think it just sort of disappeared, and it was not on the radar. But you know, it's not etched and granted. That's not where it's going to be. There may never even be one there. It's just a proposal, one proposal of a way to move traffic around and have it avoid downtown. There's a lot of work left to be done here, and that is. There's originally it reached even further south, and one of the problems was it went into a different highway district at that time. And
It's hard to hear you, Mayor. I don't know if it's the...
what?
Got it too close.
Pull the microphone away.
Too close. Sorry about that. Well, anyway, the point being is that it's just. It's not like, oh, okay, there it is, that's the way it's going to be. And we'll work back through Campo. The planning board has discretion to make recommendations of changes to this. So there's still a lot of work to be done. So I don't want you to go home thinking, oh, that blue line, that dotted line's there, so that's the way it's going to be. That's not necessarily the truth.
I understand that it's a proposal, but my concern is getting a new proposal and getting that on paper, because as long as that's there, that's what the state think is your plan or what you have in mind, right?
Well, they understand that there is a bypass in mind. I don't think that they, in any shape or form, thinks that is necessarily it. That location is exactly where it's going to be. As was pointed out, it couldn't be if you have the 1 mile separation, because that's closer than 1 mile to the next, so it has to be moved. So it's a concept. It's not like, okay, that's where it's going to be.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that wholeheartedly, but it make me feel better if it was dotted elsewhere.
You just don't want to see it there at all. I get it. I understand. Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
But thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just add on to what you were saying. To put it in context, when they decided to continue 540, it went through 5, 10, I don't know how many, eight different iterations and multiple studies of rerouting to, there was wildlife, protected wild, I think a woodpecker or something. They had to reroute around a wetlands area to protect the woodpecker or something. So it was a multi-year process. So if that was to ever get like serious, it would be a multi-year study to find the correct route to go around these neighborhoods, to avoid Little River, to avoid the watershed, to protect the wildlife, to protect the citizens, and to make sure that you're not impacted by the noise and so forth. But this is not something that, this is something that could never even come about, you know? So, like the mayor is saying, don't go home thinking that if it gets approved that, oh my gosh, now they're bringing this, road through my neighborhood. Because I don't want to take it through anybody's neighborhood. I don't want it through my neighborhood. I don't want it through your neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, I recall Hightown, to be honest with you. When I first moved here, it was there. And then Worth Hinton opened up. I recall that. Okay, is there, last call, anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and take a 5-minute recess. You folks are welcome to stay for these others. I think you came primarily interested in the transportation program, but we'll take a 5-minute recess and then we'll get going on the other two.
sides of it. Glenn's gonna feel like you're encroaching.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order and welcome everyone back to their seats. The next one is a public hearing on project 496-1187 Pony Road Plan Development, so I'll call for staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of both boards. This is the first plan development submitted under the new Unified Development Ordinance. This is titled the Pony Road Plan Development. The definition of a plan development in the Unified Development Ordinance is, it is the intent of these standards to allow an applicant to propose a wide variety of allowable uses and flexible application of some of the development standards in Article 5, which is the development standards, in return for a higher quality of development with more amenities than might otherwise result from a strict application of the standards of this ordinance. The applicant is TMTLA Associates. Because there's multiple properties, there's two owners, PNC of North Carolina, and then the Chendak property owners. That addresses are 705 Pony Road, 0 MacTodd Road, and 0 Harmonica Drive. The parcel size, the cumulative size of the three parcels is 163 acres. The existing zoning is residential 2, residential 4, and heavy commercial. And the proposed zoning is planned development. The proposal before you today is 418 dwelling units. This is broken down into a mixture of single-family detached and attached homes, which would be townhomes. The density of the development is 2.51 units per acre. And then looking at the size of the single-family detached lots, we're looking at about 5,000 square feet. This is the vicinity map. The parcels in question are in this area right here. Like as I stated, 163 acres. You have the Pine View development to the adjacent north. You have multifamily residential to the adjacent north. This is the zoning map. You have to the adjacent north residential multifamily in this area right here. To the east, you have heavy commercial. And to the west, you have office and institutional and residential 4. Then to the south, you have the residential 2 and manufactured home overlay. These are pictures of the site visit, the posted sign looking south on Pony Road, looking north on Pony Road with a commercial development across the street. And this is the multifamily residential to the adjacent north. This is an overall site layout. To the northern portion of the development, you have your townhome, your single family attached. These would be alley loaded. And the rest of the development would be your single family detached. A lot of the development to the west and to the south is wetlands or floodplain. There will be a private greenway trail that will surround the development. 2 access points on the Pony Road. And then there will be access points stubbing into the existing Pine View subdivision to the north. And then there will be amenity areas. This is a zoomed in layout of the single family detached, and then a zoomed in version of the single family attached. Some of the amenities that the development is proposing is a greenway trail, a pool, and then some of the amenity center, which might have the following: fitness center, fire pit, seating area. Entire open space of the development is 83.43 acres, which is about 50%, half the site. There'll be a dog park and tot lot. There was some outstanding issues that staff and the applicant think that we've come to agreement on, but we brought it forward in front of both boards just so we can have the discussion at the public hearing. And the outstanding issues are the commitment to the residential design guidelines in Chapter 5, traffic calming. This would be horizontal traffic calming, not it wouldn't be speed bumps, but more of bulb outs, just some horizontal versions of traffic calming. The timing of the construction of the pool and the amenity center, making sure that the street sections are meeting the EMS roadway widths, and then their language when homeowners' documents are created that no more than 10% of the dwellings will be rental units. These are the 5 standards you'll use to evaluate when the time comes to recommend approval or denial. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Questions from the board? Questions from the planning board? Huh? Okay.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I have quite a few questions going through all the documents here. So one of the things you just mentioned was the lot size is 5,000 square feet, which averages the 2.5 per acre. An acre is 43,560 square feet. So by my math, that's not quite right.
Well, what they're doing is they're using what the Unified Development Ordinance has as a conservation subdivision, which allows you to reduce the amount of square footage of the lots in exchange for more open space.
Okay. So going to that point, we're reducing the lot frontage, and I'm assuming these are going to be two-car garage units.
Yes.
What are the side setbacks on the single family detached?
I believe it's 5 feet.
I believe that's what I saw as well.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
and a two-car garage driveway is 20 feet. So if you have 30 feet or 10 feet in setbacks from each side plus 20 feet in a driveway, you're talking 20 feet of yard frontage. So what green space are they going to have? Because that sounds more like asphalt and concrete to me.
It's more of a green space, common areas throughout the development, not on the individual lots.
And you also mentioned 50% is open space. What does that consist of, though? Is it actually green lot, or is it ponds and watershed and not really usable space? I mean, I understand they had a dog park slated for that, which that's, I guess you can call it a green space. But the tot lot that I saw with that little roundabout area honestly looks dangerous to me. You got it right in the middle of a drive, an artery to those cul-de-sacs. So I just don't see where the 83% or the 50%, excuse me, 83 acres is. It's open space, but is it usable?
The majority of it might not be usable. It's, like I said, it's floodplains and wetlands. This area, as I stated, to the west, probably not usable. I can let the applicants expand on that.
Okay.
But they do have the greenway along the western and southern portions of the site, which is usable. But
This is not much as far as green yards or anything, from what I can tell.
There were pictures, at least in my packet. I don't know if your packet was the same. And I believe that your statement is correct. It looks like an awful lot of asphalt.
Okay. So also in this conditional rezoning conditions, you had in there that it's going to be mass grading. Can you explain that process? And who's responsible after?
so the mass grading would be, I'll let the applicant elaborate on that, but it would be creating some sort of limits of disturbance around the perimeter of the development and grading.
Okay, so once it's graded, a couple of years down the road, we've got all these houses built, then the town is responsible if it's not done correctly?
If what's not done correctly.
The grading.
So the weight
Prime
count-
example that I can put it into context is over in Weaver's Pond, the older original Phase 1 section has a lot of grading issues, and now the town is coming out to inspect those grading issues and will possibly have to do repairs to that, because that is what they're being told, is that the town was responsible for that now. So are we saying that if this is not graded correctly, because mass grading, in my opinion, is not the best way of grading for residential construction, that eventually there's going to be a problem, and then the town's going to have to come and float that bill.
I'm not aware of the town being responsible. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not, but I can't speak to that.
Okay. Why the alleys?
In the Unified Development Ordinance, if you have a unit that's less than 70 feet or 60 feet with the plan director's approval, the units have to be rear loaded.
Okay. But we're saying that this would allow them a 5-foot setback from the road, so they can have the rear access with the alleys. So my concern, again, more concern of more asphalt, and alleys typically are collectors of trash. So, you would assume that the homeowners association would be responsible for that, but who's going to enforce that?
It'd be the homeowner association.
Okay, but if the homeowners association isn't doing the job, and we've got trash building up in these alleys, and it starts to become a problem.
Well, it could be
I've lived in neighborhoods that had alleys, and they are a massive collector of problems and trash and tires and whatever the case may be, environmental hazards.
Well, it could lead to a code enforcement situation where the town will cite either the owner of the property or the property owners association.
Okay. I also noticed item number 15, vinyl siding will not be permitted, but vinyl accents. Why is there a no
Maybe
vinyl siding?
Vinyl around maybe the windows.
But no vinyl siding. I don't understand. What, aluminum siding?
Hardy plank.
Hardy
maybe brick.
So there's no standard as far as what they're going to kind of look like. You can just go in and build whatever you want.
They're limited to. I believe in their narrative they talk about what materials they're using. I think there's about 3 or 4 options, but I can let the applicant elaborate on that.
I know I saw where they had you had to pick 3 of this kind of thing, 3 of this feature and 4 of that feature, and that kind of thing. But I didn't see that it allowed for 4 or 5 different types of construction.
Well, nothing's going to be allowed to be parged, I believe.
Let's let Meade answer
I'll let the applicant elaborate on that.
Okay. It also mentioned in here the homeowners covenants that there's language that no more than 10% of the homes with certificates of occupancy will be rented units, but that was something that was missing. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's an outstanding issue.
Are they going to provide that kind of issue? Because again, a concern is that those townhomes end up getting developed by someone and it becomes a leased property now, and now we have more issues especially with the rear loading.
Yeah, just going back to the exterior materials, I'll just touch on it briefly. Page 10, brick, wood, stone, fiber cement, and or wood composite. Those are the materials that they're allowed to use.
Okay, so these houses are just going to be a hodgepodge of all kinds of different finishes and. Okay. And then they also have not provided a threshold for the amenities.
Correct. So that's something that we hope to get tonight.
We're hoping,
What staff's hoping is either by a certain number of certificate of occupancies, the pool or and the amenity center have to be constructed, or there's been other discussions with the applicant that maybe it's when it's, before they record a certain phase, that a building permit has to be submitted for the pool or amenity center.
now, the HOA that they have talked about, I'm assuming is corporate HOA to begin with. Some corporation is going, was there anything in their ordinances that said when owner occupancy took over that HOA? Like 75% occupancy, then the homeowners take over that HOA versus the corporation running the HOA?
Typical timeline of requirement of the HOA is when they record a phase of a plat. So when we come in with phase one, they have to submit homeowners document or covenants with the recording of the plat.
I guess maybe I'm not, in the beginning, a corporation is going to be running this HOA. They're going to be collecting the fees and everything. I'm assuming that's typically how it's done. I believe I saw in there where there was 3 companies or something that were going to be doing the HOA. At some point, I would assume that HOA would get turned over to the homeowners. So then it is a true homeowners association. But there's nothing in there that I saw that says that the homeowners take over at 50% or 90% or whatever the case may be. So that's what I'm trying to find out. Because my other concern is that with allowing that many townhomes, if they end up getting purchased by a mass group or investor, then he has a larger stakehold in this HOA with this corporation or as a homeowner. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see where I'm going?
I don't.
No.
That's
Okay.
I'll let the applicant speak on that.
Have we had a traffic impact analysis?
They do. They have a traffic engineer tonight.
Do they? Okay. And then one of the maps I saw mentioned in the development to the north, I forget what the name that they're connecting to.
Pineview.
Pineview. There were some lifting stations.
I'm not sure.
Let me see if I can find that map briefly. It was the existing conditions Pony Road map. Kind of looks like this. There's no page number, so I can't give you a page number. But it references the lifting stations pretty much where they're going to be connecting. So my concern is, are they connecting these units into that, those lifting stations? And are those lifting stations going to meet the capacity?
I'll let the applicant elaborate on that.
Okay. It sounds like the applicant needs to.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
Okay.
they're here for.
All right. I'll reserve the rest until. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Sean.
When it comes to the minimum front square footage, it says that it's going to be at least 5 feet. Now, that is before the building starts, and so that would mean that the driveway space would be 5 feet potentially.
Was this for the single family attached or the detached?
I think, well, for the attached, and then it says the detached, then it just says street, 20-foot minimum. I'm not quite sure what that means.
So from the single family detached, the house has to be 20 feet from the public right of way.
Okay.
Typically, staff would require a 18-foot driveway.
And so when it's the single family attached, then they're going to be loading from the rear, and so there's not going to be driveways.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So the front door to the townhomes would be 5 feet from maybe the public sidewalk.
And there's going to be sidewalk throughout the whole, on both sides, I believe?
Yeah, sidewalks on both sides of the
Okay,
streets.
okay, thank you.
That it?
Yeah.
You got it. All right, any other questions from either board? Okay, hearing none, then I'll call for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposal.
Good evening. My name is Pam Porter. I'm with TMTLA Associates. We are the applicant on this, and here with me tonight are Don Sever and Ed Sergany with Summit Engineering. They can answer any questions you may have about civil engineering and traffic. And Bryant Spencer with RHH Land Investments is here on behalf of the developer. And this is the vicinity map, which you just saw a minute ago. On this, the parcels of our project are outlined in red, or I'm sorry, in yellow. And the area is 166.85 acres. We had it surveyed, so that's the surveyed boundary. And the purpose of the proposed Pony Road plan development is to provide a mix of high-quality housing arranged around the environmentally sensitive areas within the boundaries of our development, while also providing opportunities for gathering and recreation. So this is the overall plan for our development. As you can see, there's an area of single-family detached, and then to the north, the area of the single-family attached, or what we call townhomes. I wanted to show this map because I wanted to highlight the amount of open space that we have on this project. So everything that is shown in gray is considered open space. And most of it is environmentally sensitive features such as stream buffers and wetlands and floodplain, but we do have recreational areas throughout too. But I just wanted to highlight that we are providing at least 50% open space, and that it could end up being more as we develop this, but we're committing to at least 50% open space. And as part of my presentation, I'm going to highlight some of the architecture and the open space features that we are providing as part of our project. So this slide shows our open space areas in the single-family detached. We've got a couple different things highlighted. The passive open space, which is behind some lots where the cul-de-sacs are, which will be just a grassy area with some benches, and there's a sidewalk connection between the one cul-de-sac to the road. There's the town greenway trail, and we're providing about 4,100 linear feet of greenway. It's a 10-foot greenway trail to the southern side of our site. There's the pool and the clubhouse, and there's a couple pictures of the pool and the clubhouse and the mail kiosk. And I just wanted to note that these areas have not been designed yet. We don't know exactly what the pool and the clubhouse are going to look like, or the mail kiosk shelter, but these are examples of other ones that the developer has done to show the quality of the development. And it will be similar, it'll be not the same, but similar style, but it'll be in line with the same quality. And this is the townhome portion where we have some other open space areas. We've got the tot lot, there's a dog park, an activity lawn, and there's 2 mail kiosks to serve the townhomes. And there is a possible trail around the existing pond, but we don't know if it's going to work with the grades yet, so we're not committing to providing it because we're not sure it'll work, but it's that big fat dashed line that kind of goes around the existing pond, and we're hoping we can provide that. It's listed in the document as we may provide it, as long as we can get it to work. This is the open space chart that we have as part of the PD document. I just wanted to highlight a couple things.
The Greenway Trail that we're providing is part of the Corridor 8 Greenway Trail on the Town of Zebulon Greenways map. It's approximately 4,100 linear feet, which is about 3/4 of a mile, and the easement will be almost 2 acres. And we're committing to providing 3 trailheads. Each trailhead will have a minimum of 1 dogway station and 1 trash can. And this is in addition to the other amenities we're providing, like the pool and the clubhouse. We're committing to a minimum of a 1,000 square foot pool and a minimum of a 2,500 square foot clubhouse. In the dog park, we have a minimum of 6,000 square feet of fenced area, and we have different amenities we're providing. 2 benches, 1 trash can, dogway station. It's going to be fenced with 4-foot chain link or galvanized vinyl coated. The tot lot is a minimum 600 to 1,000 square feet, which includes the ASTM fall zones of play equipment, and that will also include a minimum of 2 benches, picnic table, and a trash can, and then other different amenity areas as well. And then there's unimproved open space, which takes up the majority of the open space, again, because it's the environmentally sensitive areas. So some open space standards based on the UDO versus our project. You know, we're not required to provide any open space as part of our request, but we are providing a minimum of 50%. And again, most of it's environmentally sensitive, but we are providing both as part of this development, passive and active areas, including the pool and clubhouse, the dog park, the tot lot, the activity lawn, and a passive green space. And again, roughly 3/4 of a mile of Corridor 8 Greenway Trail, which is a 10-foot wide paved trail, which is pretty substantial. You can drive a car on it. In the next couple slides, there's some examples of some of the buildings that we're doing here. So these are 2 photos of other townhomes that the developer has built. The townhomes for this development have not been designed yet because they are alley loaded and they do sit closer to the street. So the purpose of that is to have them front on the street, and it gives a more pedestrian feel. It's not a car dominated front, which is why we have the alleys. And these, you know, one of these shows alley loaded, but they're further from the road, and then the other, of course, is front loaded, which we're not doing. And then these are some photos of some potential homes. And somebody in the audience had questions about the architecture. The intention is not to have a mixture of random materials. I mean, they are going to work together to create a cohesive front, but there are certain things we're not doing, such as vinyl siding, which is, you know, pretty much the least expensive siding. We want to elevate the materials. So it'll be a mix of different, you know, stone, brick, hardy plank, and other different materials to create the various facades through the neighborhood. And then some of our architectural standards summarized. I'm not going to read this whole list. I'll just touch on a couple things. We're committing to the style of buildings will be any of the variety of the following: craftsman, traditional, colonial, neoclassical, and all the residential features will be 3 or more of the following: front porch, awning, columns, balconies, broken roof lines, dormers, arched architectural features, chimneys, all brick or all stone facades, and then other architectural features approved by the planning director. All residential structures will have 4 or more of the following: decorative shake, decorative porch railings or posts, shutters, decorative functional air vents on roof or foundation, trimmed or recessed windows, decorative brick or stone, a minimum of 10% required on front elevation, decorative gables, decorative cornices, tin or metal roof, or other decorative features approved by the planning director. We're going to provide varied roof lines, so to reduce the scale and provide visual interest. Predominant exterior building materials shall be high quality and include brick, wood, stone, fiber cement, and or wood composite. Vinyl siding is not permitted, but vinyl windows, trim, or other decorative elements are permitted. And other decorative elements might be like a decorative light or something that's vinyl. And a varied color palette shall be used through the homes throughout the subdivision. And then Town of Zebulon architectural standards versus Pony Road. Vinyl siding is prohibited per the UDO, and we're complying with that. Per the UDO, garage doors shall incorporate decorative hinges or hardware, windows, or other architectural features. We are complying with that. Per the UDO, single-family detached dwelling units shall include material changes at logical points and a variety of materials as well as architectural variability, and we're providing that. Per the UDO, all sides of a building shall incorporate architectural detailing and windows that complement the front facade and provide visual interest, and we're doing that. And per the code, single-family attached development shall be exempted from the standards listed in 533 through, though a landowner may voluntarily agree to comply with them as part of the conditional rezoning. And as part of our development, we are committing to similar architectural features for the single-family detached. So basically, our architectural commitments are like those listed for multifamily, and in the UDO, the multifamily architectural requirements are much more stringent than single-family attached and detached. So as part of our development, we're going to amplify the architectural features to match that. That would be the multifamily development. And we're also committed to providing 2 types of housing at varying price points. And staff indicated when we started this process that one of the items that has come up in the past is when people that live in Zebulon want to move, they move out of town. So what we're trying to do is create a variety of homes and price points so people can move within the town and not have to leave if they wanted to get a bigger home or downsize. And there's a couple slides on here regarding some infrastructure improvements. I'm going to let Ed with Summit talk about this.
Good evening. My name is Ed Sergiani. I'm a traffic engineer for Summit Design and Engineering, and I performed the analysis and provided the TIA report that was submitted with the development to the town and DOT. And just without getting into all the technical terms, we've added the improvements for each of the study intersections that were included for this TIA. And just highlighting them, the first one is at NC 97 in Lizard Lake in Mashburn Road. It's about 2 miles west of the development, but we had concluded that a new right turn lane on 97 westbound at the intersection was needed, with about 200 feet of storage and a taper into that, and there'll have to be some signal modifications associated with that. That wouldn't be needed until the full build out is complete, but I usually leave that to the DOT how they decide when those things need to be put down in writing, but they have already agreed with recommendations from our TIA. 97 in Pineview Drive is the third access that is being created with the connections to Pineview Estates. And similar here for the 2025 build out, we're recommending another right turn lane or an additional right turn lane on 97 eastbound to accommodate turning vehicles there. The biggest congestion intersection within this project area was at Pony Road and 97 Gannon Avenue. And we have recommended the construction of a single lane roundabout with an apron to accommodate truck traffic. And again, that would be with the full build out of the site. And then the 2 site drives on Pony Road as well, they will be built with phase 1 to accommodate building of the subdivision and the townhouses from Pony Road accesses only, so that they don't end up going through Pineview Estates to build the bulk of the subdivision. But they will have a 1 entry lane and 1 exit lane on each of the entrances and stop sign control. And then the internal connections are going to be built with the phases. They're actually listed as phases 3 and 4, and the site plan initially had 5 phases, but phase 1 and 5 are going to be built together, so even though it's 4, it's kind of the last phase. So that's phased out to allow the internal connections to be some of the last connections they make. I hit the right button. There it is. That's not very easy to see, but that's basically the operational diagram that results from these recommendations. It was straight from the TIA. showing the lanes added and the control, whether it's signal or stop sign control.
Sir, where is the TIA?
Staff had it. It was a PDF. It was electronic. I have hard copies, but town staff said that electronic PDF was adequate.
So we do have them on file.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna need those, Mike, if you can get me that. Having the traffic impact analysis report is, I think, pretty important when we're trying to make decisions right now, especially as our town's growing.
Okay.
Thank you, Ed. And then this is the list of zoning conditions that we're offering as part of our project. You should have these. I won't go over all these, but I do want to highlight just a few. That we are limiting our use to single-family detached, single-family attached, and permitted accessory uses. The single-family detached lot shall have a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet and a minimum depth of 100 feet. Now, this doesn't mean that they're all going to be 5,000 square feet. There are some larger lots, but that is the smallest single-family detached ones that we're showing. For the single-family attached lots, they shall have a minimum lot size of 1,700 square feet and a minimum lot depth of 75 feet. And there's a condition on here regarding landscaping. It's condition 13. I thought I would just explain it a little bit because the way it's worded gets, I think, kind of technical. So we have in the single-family attached part of the neighborhood some alleys that dead end and do not connect through because of their proximity to the planned intersections. So what we're planning on doing is using vegetation to screen those dead-end alleys from view as you're entering the site. That's all that says. And there's different options. You can plant 3 of those because they get bigger, or 4 of the others. They just don't get as big or as wide, so we're going to plant more of them. And then 15, vinyl siding shall not be permitted again, but vinyl accents will be allowed. And I did take some notes based on the questions the gentleman had in the audience. So I'll go over those really quick. So regarding the open space, we went over the different open space areas we're providing, but again, most of it's environmentally sensitive areas which we can't touch. And we recognize that the Greenway Trail has to work around those areas, the corridor 8. So we say it's approximately 4,100 linear feet because it may shift depending on where the wetlands are, and we're not going to bulldoze wetlands to put the Greenway Trail in. Regarding mass grading, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to grade the whole site. It means we're not doing a lot by lot grading. When you have a 5,000 square foot lot, it's really hard to just grade a lot for a house. So it'll be groups of lots. It's not going to be the whole site flattened. Mass grading doesn't mean flat. It just means grading a larger area to accommodate the housing to be constructed. The reason we're using alleys is because it's required, but it gives a different feel to the neighborhood when you can walk out your front door and you can get on your sidewalk and have that interaction with your neighbor. It's more of a T&D type design. And alleys, alleys are more expensive too. Most developers would choose not to do alleys if they didn't have to because it is extra pavement, but it does provide a certain streetscape that does have a more desirable look. The architectural standards I went over, I hope that cleared that up for you, that it's not going to be hodgepodge of materials. There's a method to the madness, but the way the conditions are written, we have to commit to those things. So when the houses are built, there are choices, but it's not going to be, hardy plank and this and that. It's all going to look like those homes that I showed pictures of before. I don't know when the HOA gets turned over to the homeowners. The representative from the developer may be able to answer that better. I know that there is a threshold, I just don't know what that is. And I'm not sure about the pump station question, but the civil engineer can probably answer that if you have further question on that. So I hope I didn't miss anything. And just wanted to thank you all for your consideration of our request. I know that our HH Land Investment is really excited to be in town. I'm excited to work on this project. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, let me first, do you have anybody else to present any information?
Only if there's questions.
Only
that was
if
it
there's
for my presentation. Yes,
okay,
sir.
fine. I didn't want to jump over if you did.
No problem.
So
I appreciate you
now
asking.
I'll open the floor to questions. Shannon, you had something?
So what do you anticipate the space being between the houses?
It depends on where the houses sit on the lot, but
What's the smallest space between the houses?
10 feet between the houses, but it could be more. I mean, that's assuming you're building from setback to setback on both sides. With a 5-foot setback, technically they could be 10 feet apart. Likely, it's not going to be, likely it will be more than that. It's not going to be like that for every scenario.
Okay. When I was reading through the list of plants that you were considering using, I noticed that you had green giants as one of the options. And in my speaking with arborists from Duke Energy, green giants are really actually frowned upon to be used as a screening device just because of how they grow out and then potentially die off in places where it makes it prohibitive to be able to take those plants out and replace them effectively.
Sure. So where they're going to be, it's going to be just a handful. They won't be hard to access. I don't necessarily agree with what Duke says about them, but we can certainly take that off the list. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fine. It's just, it's not, if it's where they're going to screen the alley, there's only going to be a couple of them in one row, and we can easily take one out and replace it, but we can take that off the list. That's not a big deal.
Okay. And then where you're speaking about the amenities center, I would just like to encourage the applicant, instead of saying may include some, I would like you to consider changing the verbiage to will include all.
Okay, we can consider that. I mean, I can't make that promise because
That's my
I'm
suggestion.
not paying for it, but I do see what you're saying, and we can certainly consider that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions from the town board? You have questions still? Go ahead.
I got one.
I'm sorry. Let him go, okay.
In regards to the exterior siding on single-family homes, I heard you say wood. So does that mean that there will be complete wood siding on some of the homes?
No, because we have to have a minimum of 10% of brick or stone on the front. So the intention is not to have one material be the entire siding, because that does not produce a nice looking quality home. Let me go back to the pictures.
Well, my concern is fire.
Oh, okay, I mean, yes, okay, that's understood. So
If your wood is going to be trimmed, that's one thing. If your wood is siding, that's another.
it likely, people don't use wood siding very often. It will likely be hardy plank with wood trim.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do you have a specific builder plan for this, or is it the homeowner can pick their builder?
So I believe there are options. Bryant with H&H Homes and RHH Land Investment probably could speak better to that than I can. He's here. Do you want to come up and talk about that?
Well, while you're there too, you might be able to answer this. One of the things here said 35 feet or 3 stories. Is that, I'm assuming, a 2-story home with an attic?
Yeah, so the 35-foot, that's the tallest the house can be. I mean, you can do it in 2 or 3 stories. I mean, it's very rare that a 3-story home is going to be that tall, but it gives flexibility for the home type.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And I would really like to get that pump station question answered if there's someone here
Sure,
that
yeah,
can.
the civil engineers can answer that. Right.
Good evening. I'm Bryant Spencer with RHH Land Investors and H&H Homes. To answer the question about the builder, I mean, the photos there, H&H Homes will be the builder on these. These are actually homes that we build in all over North and South Carolina. These plans will be modified to meet the town's architectural standards, but at this point, we kind of have to get through this process before we can go to the next step of modifying these drawings for construction and submittal for building permits. A couple of the notes that I made, I'm sorry, did that answer your question about the, okay. Regarding the HOA docs, those typically, like Mead said, are submitted with a first plat, and we don't have a draft of those yet. That will define when the homeowners association is turned over to the HOA. Typically, it's around 75% complete. There's a whole process that has to go through. There has to be an annual meeting first held, the board has to be turned over, and then at that initial meeting, the homeowners will have an election and they'll elect their own board, and that's usually at about 75%. Some declarations are written a little differently. Some can say at a fixed date, by this date they'll have to be turned over. Others, it's a percentage of completion. But again, we'll have to submit a draft of those to the town with our first plat. Okay. And that will also address the rental issue for the 10% rental question. Any other questions for?
You get all yours answered? No. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Don Sever with Summit Design and Engineering. The question regarding the pump station, we've had some conversations with the city of Raleigh, there's actually 2 pump stations that we can connect into. The larger one is on Southland Drive, and we'll probably have 3/4 of the development go into that pumping station, which has adequate capacity. And then there's a second pump station on MacTodd Road that we can connect into. So we haven't worked out the specifics, but we have talked sufficiently with the city of Raleigh to say that we have the flexibility to go to either pump station and have the capacity there.
Okay. But the important thing is we will have the capacity with those pump stations.
That's correct.
Raleigh's pretty tight on that. They're not going to let them.
Yeah, I understand. I just didn't want to make sure that the Pineview neighborhood isn't impacted by having to replace any kind of pump
I fully
stations or
understand where you're
anything
coming
like that.
from.
So I just want to
having
make sure
dealt
that
with
they're
Raleigh,
protected before we go letting them add more to it.
I got it. Okay. Anything else now?
I did. I just was looking at my notes again, the amenity question and committing to a time frame for completion of that. We're certainly open to working with staff on a date or some kind of a structure, whether it be based on COs, building permits. As a developer, it doesn't make sense to go in and start a neighborhood and build the amenity immediately because there's no residents there to use it. There's nobody to maintain it, no fees coming in to take care of it. So typically, we would set that threshold at 50 houses or 75 houses or something like that, so that there are people in there, and it's somewhere in that process, and that's, as Mead mentioned, we could set it at a building permit threshold to say, when we reach this number, we have to submit a permit application to build the amenity, because that permitting, it's a commercial use, and that permitting process is going to take time with the town. So we could either do it as a phase number, like at the beginning of phase 2, or at a number of COs or building permits, or however the town is most comfortable with us submitting it that way. But we're certainly open to whatever trigger is the best way to get it started.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question kind of with the amenities. It looked like the mail kiosks are all in the amenity area. Are there going to be others around the neighborhood? So if you're building the kiosks with the amenities, is that going to be front-loaded and just being sitting there, or?
So there's 3 mail kiosks that we're planning. Let me go back to So for the single-family detached, the mail kiosk is going to be with the pool and clubhouse. And that will likely be built before the pool and clubhouse, because as people move in, they'll have to get mail, right? So there's gonna be one bigger one for the single-family detached. It makes sense to have it there because it's right as you enter the neighborhood, easy to access, easy for USPS to deliver mail. And then for the townhomes, we're gonna have one in each of the open spaces that are in the backs of those kind of circular sections of townhomes. Just to split it up, they won't be as big, so it'll be 3 total. And they'll be easily accessed by the post office. It's not gonna be hard to get to or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious as if they're part of the amenity building or if they're freestanding.
No, it'll be there'll be the kiosk.
Yeah.
With a shelter, as you can see in that picture. Yeah, it'll be a separate thing.
Okay.
And just to note on the amenities too, I want to point out that it is in the developer, the builder's best interest to build the amenity sooner rather than at the end of the neighborhood being built because it's a marketing piece for them to sell homes. So they are driven to build it, not at the very end, not when all the homes are built. That's how people get into the neighborhood and they go in and look and see the amenity and it helps them sell homes. So. Did anybody else have any other questions?
I have one. I gotta keep yelling into this thing. There was like 5 or 6, I guess, outstanding things in the staff report, and one of which was the some additional traffic calming measures. And I see that there's like on some of the maps, I guess L3 is one of the sheets, that there's an alternative roundabout design that says may be considered during construction drawings. Is that the only location, or I guess there's 2 locations, one in both like different parts of the development?
So the one that's in the single-family detached part of the neighborhood, that is for traffic calming. The one in the townhomes is just decorative. It's going to be landscaped. It's to create a nice view shed as you're driving in, so you're not just looking at homes. It'll be grass median with it at the end. So that's not for traffic calming. But the one in the single-family detached part is for traffic calming. And we've had some discussions with staff about alternate ways to do traffic calming measures that may not look like this type of roundabout, but this is the one that we just have on the drawing with that note because it could change. There may be other traffic calming devices in the neighborhood. We just haven't decided on what those are yet, but we know we'll have probably at least one roundabout, and whether it looks like this or it's a little smaller, that's yet to be determined.
What are some of like historically and other projects you've done, traffic calming measures that you've instilled?
There's all different things. I don't know, you were here for the presentations before, so there's bulb outs, there's different types of crosswalks you can do, there's speed humps. There's a host of things that you could do that don't look like roundabouts. Roundabouts take up a lot of room. They can be expensive. So just putting them at every intersection is not necessarily a overall solution to traffic because people they can drive around them fast. But they do help. So we do think there will likely be one at that intersection because it connects up to the existing neighborhood. And it'll help so people that are driving through won't drive super fast up to that existing neighborhood. But as far as other ones go, we don't know in the neighborhood where they will be. We just know there will likely be some. We just don't know what that looks like.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Now, is there anyone else that wants to speak on the issue? Okay, well, hearing none then, I'll close that public hearing and thank everyone for their questions and interest. Next, we have project 511021, Nedriga Bungalow. Did I pronounce that right? I did. I got it right.
You did. Negrita.
Okay. So I'll ask for staff report.
All right, The applicant is Capital Partners of North Carolina LLC. The applicant same as the owner. The property address is 901 Mac Todd Road. The size of the parcel is 2.36 acres. The existing zoning is light industrial. The proposed zoning is R4, residential 4. The request is proposing from light industrial to residential 4. So vicinity map, the subject parcel is currently undeveloped. You have a commercial warehouse across Mac Todd Road. You have a church to the adjacent north. Zoning on the property, you have light industrial to the adjacent north. To the east, you have mobile home overlay and light industrial. To the west, you have heavy commercial, which is across Mac Todd Road. And then to the south, you have heavy commercial. This is looking south on Mac Todd Road. Subject site currently undeveloped. An existing warehouse across the street. Then an accessory use to the main church campus to the adjacent north. This is the site plan the applicant submitted, looking at 7 single-family detached homes. These homes would all be on their own lots. Minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet. You would have 2 entrances on Mac Todd Road. These aren't streets, these are driveways. They'd be proposed in common space maintained by the homeowners association. And this driveway to the further south would serve 2 of the single-family detached dwellings, and then the driveway to the north would service the other 5. Because this is conditional zoning, they are asking for some reductions. The front setback, currently the code requires 20 feet. They want to reduce that to 10. The rear setback, currently the UDO requires 15. They want to reduce that to 5. And then there's a condition that each shared driveway will be in common area maintained by the homeowners association. This is a bungalow court. It's a housing development option in the residential 4 zoning district, but it does have to meet these 6 use-specific guidelines. The first one is it must comply with the residential guidelines in Chapter 5.2. Number 2, be located on a site of at least 1 acre, but not more than 3 acres. Number 3, be limited to single-family detached dwellings as a principal use. Number 4, be configured so that each dwelling unit obtains vehicular access via a common shared driveway that is located in common area, maintained by the homeowners association. B, comprised of concrete, brick, or pavers. And C, located central to the development. Number 5, be limited to no more than 5 dwelling units sharing the same driveway. And then number 6, you cannot exceed the maximum allowable density in the district it's located. These are the 5 standards you'd use to evaluate this proposal. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Questions from the board?
How many square feet, what's the square footage of the homes, of the bungalows?
I'll let the applicant state what they're looking for. We just regulate lot size, which is the minimum 6,000 square feet.
Other questions from the board? Shannon?
There's a cemetery, and that's, I believe, located south of where the proposed bungalows are?
Up on the hill there,
It's
the Todd.
the Todd Cemetery, right?
It is not, it's up a little ways.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Down in this area, maybe?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's gotta be right in there.
Yeah, all right.
Other questions from the board? From the planning board, any questions?
Not really a question, more a concern, just the reduction of the 5-foot setback for the rear, that's putting them right on top of each other. Again, we're creating more house and no yard. And I have a lot of concerns with, they have a shared driveway, which is going to be paved, but where's the green?
Well, I think we need to let the applicant answer that. Sounds like it to me.
Yeah,
Any other
most-
questions?
Most of the green or the common areas, or the green spaces in common area, along the perimeter of the site, along the kind of eastern portion and then the southern portion. But more in common area, not on the individual lots.
Okay. Other questions for Mead? Okay. Anyone like to speak on behalf of this?
Good evening. My name is Jared Matthews. I'm the engineer of record on this project. I believe the first thing I wanted to talk about was, I believe there was a typo on the setback reduction. I think we had proposed the street setbacks be reduced to 15 feet from 20 rather than 10, and the rear lot setback proposed to 5 feet. Let's see if there's a mouse here. The rear setback being reduced to 5 feet would only really affect this joint here. I'm not sure if you can see this lot line here, in which case it would really only be essentially about a 10-foot minimum spacing, which would essentially be the same as two side setbacks in, sorry, I lost my mouse, as two side setbacks in this case here.
So that's 5 feet for each one, so a total of 10 feet between those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Same as two side setbacks.
Excuse me, you said from 20 to 15?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wanted to be sure because I was trying to find my page.
Yeah, the original said 10, but yeah, we were proposing 15.
I got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But was there another question?
Any questions from either board? Now's your chance.
Did you know the square footage, as Beverly had asked?
Square
Oh,
footage
yes.
of the bungalows?
Yes, we're looking at one product that has a 1.5 story, that's 2,400 square feet, and we're looking at a 2-story option that has 2,500 square feet.
Do you have any like renderings of possible what the homes would look like or anything like that?
We do, yes, and we had planned on including those with construction drawings for a review process.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and all of these matters will be referred to the planning board. So y'all have fun. And having said that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second, third.
We're adjourned.
Don't be so, thank you.